We've seen the giants hunt the little people with all kinds of gadgets. A bow and arrow is a new one. Mark ducks into a pipe.
Give yourself up, little man. The last time, come on out.
You asked for it.
I have to admit, after 2 seasons, this is tiring. These giants are so predictable. This guy will threaten him with fire and Mark will surrender. These people look just like them. They speak the same language. They have technology that's more advanced. Yet the giants still treat them like small animals to be tortured and studied. I suppose this guy wants the reward.
What do you want?
Your friends. Where's your camp?
You'll never find out from me, Swan.
You remember what happened to you the last time I caught you?
Get lost.
Swan is the new SID inspector. What happened to Kobik? As if they're going to tell us. There's a big difference between the two. Kobik is a true believer who really thinks capturing the little people is necessary for his country's security.
I said get lost, Swan.
All right. That's the way you want it.
Swan, on the other hand, is a sociopath. He gets off on hurting them. Mark lands in some soft sand and gets himself loose. Now he has to figure out where he is and how to get back to camp. The others aren't too concerned about him, though, because he's supposed to be off somewhere else fishing. They're out foraging, but they have to be careful because the woods are crawling with SID men. In fact, there's something happening right ahead of them. They'll split up and come at it from 2 sides.
What's Dan doing? You'll be caught.
Not likely. He's checking Swan's pulse.
It's Swan. He's dead, sir.
Get Doc Jelko on the radio.
Dr. Jelko is the coroner, or something like that. Our man in the trench coat is Lieutenant Grayson. He reports that Swan is the second murder of this type. He was poisoned with a curare dart that just happens to be the right size for the little people to use. It also hit him at ankle height, little people style. The obvious conclusion is that one of their number is going around assassinating giants.
They can't suspect us.
They always blame us whenever anything bad happens.
That also gets tiring, but this time they have what seems like solid evidence.
Lieutenant. Looks like this was used for the blood gun. It's curare. Can't mistake it.
It's a small metal tube, just little people size. Close inspection reveals some initials engraved on it. M.W. Mark Wilson.
He made 6 of them to keep his fishing rods together. He said,
What are you getting at, Fitzhugh? Mark had nothing to do with it. He left on a 3-day fishing trip this morning.
His fishing rods are their size. The fish on this world aren't. I want to know what he expects to catch and how. But as usual, Fitzhugh is the caca stirrer, and as we go along, his rantings will start to sway some of the other minds. Could Mark really be doing this? And if so, what set him off?
Lieutenant Grayson, is that you over there?
Well, that's the newscaster, Bertha Fry.
That's all we need.
I'll have the body picked up.
Hello, Doc.
Hello.
Nice to see you again, Lieutenant. I gather you haven't caught the little killer yet?
You're positive that the killer is a little person, Miss Fry?
Come, Lieutenant. You're trying to hide things from me again.
It's called police work, Bertha. It's not always a good idea to lay your cards on the table face up so your opponent can read them. He has to hide some things from you because you're clueless enough to reveal them to the perpetrators and help them get away with their deeds. The fact is, she's not a reporter. She's not a journalist of any kind. She's a muckraker. She deliberately stirs up trouble to get ratings. The more rabble-rousing she can do against the little people, the more folks tune in. Good thing we wouldn't think of doing such intellectually dishonest things on Earth today, right? The little people will be dodging Grayson while trying to figure out the mystery of Mark, but she's the real villain of this piece. Without her constant intruding, yammering, and jumping to absurd conclusions, life would be a lot easier for everybody concerned. The big question for everybody concerned is, if the group isn't doing it, and presumably Mark isn't doing it, who is?
Shame this one had to be Swan. He was much more effective against the little monsters than Inspector Kovac.
Effective how? How many of them did he catch? Or do you mean he's more efficient because he didn't just get himself transferred, he got himself killed? I want to look at her dictionary and see how it defines effective.
What can you give me on this? Now, I know it was curare again, but what else?
Nothing else, Miss Fry.
I'll be on the air soon. There must be some statement, some new angle.
You will get a statement the SID chooses to make along with the rest of the news media, Miss Fry.
I have a vast audience, Lieutenant. They'll be very sorry to hear about your lack of cooperation.
As I said, this is what she does. She doesn't report the news. She stirs up trouble whether there's any basis for it or not. And if she doesn't get the dirt she wants, she threatens the SID. I wonder what her vast audience would say if one day she just disappeared. I can tell you what they'd say.
I wonder. Oh well.
They'd talk over the back fence for a few days about how they can't figure out why she was canceled, and then they'd move on to something else. The people who watch that stuff are as fickle as the people who present it. They just want the dirt. They don't care if it comes from Bertha Fry or Billy Bob Beauregard Buford in the next town. As long as it's titillating and inspires anger and outrage, it'll get ratings. Because people are weird.
Lieutenant, would you come here, please?
In a minute, Sergeant.
It's urgent, sir. A tiny footprint with a star on the heel.
We saw Mark there a minute ago, working on a way to be anywhere else. So it's not surprising that they'd find a print from his distinctive boots. All it proves is he was there.
Since I'm here, Lieutenant, this is hardly classified information. I feel perfectly free to announce it on my broadcast as legitimate news.
And she'll present it the way that responsible journalists present legitimate news, right?
I've been criticized in the past for what is said to be my hysterical reactions to the spying of the little people. My critics, some among the SID I might add, have demanded facts, not fancy. Well, my loyal listeners, here are the facts. The little people are ruthless, cold-blooded murderers.
Yep, fair and balanced, just like that other outfit. Present all sides and let the people make up their own minds to believe what I want them to.
I can now reveal that the man who was killed by one of the little people this morning was a carnival operator who once had held them captive. Tonight, another man died in the same fashion. Inspector Swan of the SID. Deadly curare was injected in the ankle of both victims with a small blowgun, an instrument of death that could have been made only by the vicious little people.
Of course, Fitzhugh is ready to believe the worst.
Might face reality, don't you? We all know how Mark hated Inspector Swan.
Mr. Fitzhugh. Why don't you make those accusations to my face?
That's not his style. He prefers to accuse people behind their backs, like Bertha does.
You can say what you like. You put us all in jeopardy. You're supposed to be miles away, yet here you are.
What, am I guilty till proved innocent?
I haven't heard any defense, have you?
Defense!
Frankly, I'm also tired of these two doing that. We waste a little time in this testosterone contest, then Mark storms into the ship.
He's got a lot of explaining to do. And not a whole lot of time to do it in.
Well, we didn't give him much of a chance now, did we?
Then get back out here and start talking.
Steve, he was angry and confused.
Look, we gotta know what went on.
Well, then just give him a few minutes. He'll be all right.
It's too important.
This is why the women should be in charge. 2 minutes to let him cool down isn't going to change anything in any way, you macho nincompoops.
Want to talk to you?
He can't.
He's gone.
Happy? You all insisted on thinking with your jewels instead of your heads, and this was the inevitable result, so it must have been what you were going for. They'll have to worry about him later. Right now, they're moving the camp into that storm drain the future guys were playing with.
We should take the ship's radio. Right.
That was a king-size blast.
I wonder what it was.
Maybe we can find out. Try the radio.
Somebody blew something up, and of course the little people are being blamed. Mark had time to get to town, and their only remaining store of explosives is gone. Time to head for SID headquarters and find out what's really going on. Just stuff a rag in Fitzhugh's mouth before you set out, okay, guys? Here's what I don't get. Mark has worked, fought, and struggled right alongside the rest of them for 2 years. His input has been crucial for working on the ship and dozens of other things. But the moment he can't account for his whereabouts, the men all turn against him and suspect him. You know, if the only friends I can find are friends like them, I think I'd rather do without. At least Steve and Dan had the good sense to leave Fitzhugh behind where Betty and Valerie can keep him in line.
You're a stubborn man, Lieutenant.
I repeat, we're meeting with the press tomorrow morning. Your office was informed of that.
I didn't get to be a success waiting for tomorrow's. I'm a now person. And I demand to know what you found out now.
Miss Fry, why don't you mind your own business?
This is my business.
I wonder if he realizes that all he has to do is order her out, and when she refuses to go, he can arrest her for trespassing. But when it gets right down to it, he's afraid of her. This is going to be difficult for me. As you know, I value truth above a lot of other things. The Bertha character is going to strain my tolerance for lying to the limit. Steve and Dan are on Grayson's desk trying to find information. Bertha wants to know about the explosion that just happened.
Was that an attempt on the part of the little people to create a panic?
If anyone is going to create a panic, Miss Fry, it will be you.
Don't lecture me, Lieutenant. Just answer my question.
The explosion occurred in a private experimental lab. We have no definite evidence yet to incriminate the little people.
And what are you doing about it?
Explosions happen in labs where they do experiments, but that doesn't matter. It has to be the little people, so what are they doing to find incriminating evidence? She cares about the sensation, not the truth. Really, I can't picture Kobik bowing down to this troublemaker. We have no idea what Swan might have done. He wasn't on screen long enough to learn anything but his name. Grayson is a weenie. All she has to do is threaten him with bad press, and he rolls over and says, "Please be gentle." Worse, she just spotted our two little guys on the desk.
Is this the first time you've seen one of them?
Yes, it is.
They're not quite the terrifying monsters you make them out to be, are they?
I judge their actions, not their size.
What actions? You can't prove they've done anything.
But here they are, hiding and spying on your desktop.
Are you accusing me of something, Miss Fry? I had no idea they were there.
We haven't done anything.
No, you're here to pave the way for an invasion from your planet, and you're going to kill anyone who gets in your way.
Let's see your evidence for that, Ms. Responsible Reporter. They've been here for a long time, as everyone knows. Why'd they take so long to get the ball rolling and only just started killing people, assuming they're the ones doing it? While we're at it, exactly how did Carlos the carnival guy stand in their way? They got away from him forever ago, and besides, they have an ally in his camp, Pepe. They had no reason to kill him, but she has an answer for everything.
One of these men is your murderer, Lieutenant. Perhaps both of them.
We're not murderers, Miss Fry.
I hardly expected a confession.
Check their shoes, Bertha. Which one of them has a star pattern on the heel? Hint, neither. So kindly shut up.
Come in.
This is Mr. Zorl. He was hurt in the explosion, Lieutenant.
He got a phone call telling him to come to the lab. It was urgent. As he went to open the door, he thought he saw something out of the corner of his eye. Then kaboom, and he can't remember anything else.
Clever trap, typical of the little monsters.
Miss Fry, if you continue to interrupt, I shall have you removed.
If he had a spine, he would have done it already. She has no business being there for any of this. Madeline Rua often played strong, defiant women like this. We've seen her in some minor things on this channel, but most of us will know her from one of the most memorable episodes of the original Star Trek ever, Space Seed. This was the episode that introduced us to Khan and the rest of the super people on the good ship Botany Bay, and she was Lieutenant MacGyver's, the anthropologist who fell in love with Khan and chose to go with him to their new planet. One might have thought that character was a little short-sighted and impulsive, but at least she knew what she was doing and had integrity. Being able to play that person convincingly and then go to this self-serving, no-morals person and play her convincingly is the mark of some serious acting talent. She's convincing enough that I may be developing an ulcer.
This was part of what distracted Mr. Zorro. Some kind of an earth gun, I'm not sure what.
Do you have an explanation for this?
You caught the little killers.
Have you ever had any contact with these little people, Mr. Zorro?
Not these, but two others.
He says he was with the professor who built the Mechanical Man way back at the start of the season. He tells them about how Mark Wilson sabotaged the robot and it killed the professor. Now, he did it out of self-defense because the professor and Zorro, who was played by a different actor last time, by the way, were going to use the robot to do some nasty things to them. But their rights don't matter. They're supposed to lie back and take it because they're little people.
Mark Wilson, M.W. Those were the initials on the blowgun that killed Inspector Swan.
And it still doesn't prove a little person used it. If she even went to journalism school, she slept through the whole thing, or slept her way through it. But I don't have any evidence of that, so I'm not going to make any accusations. I'm just saying. Right now, let's see just how incompetent Grayson is. He handed Steve a weapon. They've never seen a flare gun or a flare before. He doesn't know what it does, if it's loaded, or how lethal it might be, so he hands it to him. While he and Dan make their escape, here's something nobody in the room will think about. If they were really the cold-blooded murderers Bertha makes them out to be, why did he shoot an inanimate object instead of shooting one of them? Look at that thing. You think it couldn't take out the lieutenant or even Bertha? But all they chose to do was divert and escape. Again, nobody will think about that. They've got a good bloodlust going and they aren't about to let anything like the truth spoil it for them.
Really, officer, I'd like to go to my own doctor. Oh!
Same technique. Curare dart in the ankle.
They still can't believe Mark is doing this, but that raises the question, where is he? He's trying to reach his radio. Betty has been trying to call him all night, but what little noise he can make is indecipherable. Still, his radio is on now, so if he keeps trying, they can use directional finders to locate him.
Here.
Directional finding has come a long way since that great big radio thing in the first season. They won't ponder the fact that that was probably Mark's doing.
Well, Miss Fry, what now?
Don't get high-handed with me, Grayson. I'm in no mood for it. I've arranged to talk with the Supreme Council. I'm going to ask for its intercession in this affair. And I'm going to tell them of your refusal to cooperate and your willful insistence on doing things by the book instead of using some determined action in the interest of the people.
Last I heard, the book was written for government officials like him for just that reason. But when a sleazeball like her has more pull with the council than he does, you know this place is what we technically call a mess.
By determined, don't you really mean ruthless?
I mean exactly what I've said.
You get one thing clear, Miss Fry. Unless otherwise ordered, I do things the legal way.
You better heed the voice of the people.
By that, I'm sure you mean the voice of Bertha Fry.
You're going to see what the voice of Bertha Fry is all about, Lieutenant.
And that shows us she's also petty and vindictive. She's drunk with her own power, and Grayson keeps filling her cup. All he has to do is cut off her access to his office. It's legal for him to do that. But it's not what someone without an actual set of gonads does. Steve, Betty, and Barry have taken one direction to look for Mark. The others went another way.
It's funny. This thing seems to be zeroing in right here.
Look, Steve. It looks like a gold piece or something.
Don't touch it.
There are more, but they won't get a chance to examine them.
Steve! It's pulling me out! I can't help.
It's an automatic forest vacuum, much more efficient than raking. We have a couple of those force field pylons and the teleportation machine from last episode with a new coat of paint. Never let it be said that Irwin Allen didn't excel at reusing props. I think they've been dragged into a dance contest. That machine looks like a jukebox now. It's a big magnet of some kind and is holding them by the metal on them. Steve gets free and spends some time trying to get everyone loose the hard way. When it doesn't work, then he starts thinking. Yes, that. When you don't have time to analyze the machine, start breaking stuff. Unfortunately, they're just Earthlings, so an Irwin Allen explosion won't take them anywhere. They still have to get out of there the old-fashioned way.
We're free.
Barry has a twisted ankle and can't continue. They tuck him away in some bushes, and Steve and Betty continue after letting Dan know what happened. He says it was one of Swan's elaborate traps. Emphasis on was.
Mark is bended. Mark is bended.
Mark!
Sounds like he's gagged. Mark! Mark, we've been tracking you down. Where are you?
Why did he sit up where he can't reach the radio anymore?
Mark?
Very good. You won't need this anymore.
Oh, that's why whoever's on the other end of that pencil told him to. Mark's radio is off again, so the direction finders don't have anything to direction. But Dan has an idea. Trace their paths from their starting points to where they are now and project those lines out. Where they converge is where Mark is.
Dan, what's your position now?
Exactly parallel 2214.
That has to be the most talented compass I ever saw.
You sure of your position?
Yeah.
You know where Mark is being held?
Well, I know it's right in the middle of the city.
Right in the middle of SID headquarters.
An SID person is behind this. We've seen 3, Grayson and 2 flunkies. We know it isn't Grayson. He doesn't have the brain power or the backbone to do something like this. Bertha doesn't have enough access to the place to pull it off. That leaves one of the 2 flunkies.
The way I figure it, Mark is being used as a patsy. Someone in the SID wanted Swan dead. So killing the Carney operator, then Zorro, was like a red herring to throw the suspicion on us.
The most likely candidate is Grayson. He and Swan were both up for the top job when Kobik went off on a special assignment. Swan got the job and Grayson got second chair. Sounds like a motive, but it's far from certain. They need to spread out through the building and look for more information, to say nothing of look for Mark.
Nothing to report, except that Grayson sure emptied that building.
Did you get into Barker's office?
Couldn't chance it. He's in the room and all over it.
Barker is the sergeant that Grayson has been ordering around. Steve says, let's check his office again.
Sergeant, bring the unit disposition chart to my office, will you please?
Yes, sir.
Somebody phoned about sighting one of the little people in the building.
Oh? Where, sir?
I don't know. I thought he said room 27 could have been room 217, but he hung up before I could make sure. Anyway, I think we should recall a couple of units and search this entire building.
That should keep him out of the room for a little bit, so a searching we will go. While Dan and Fitzhugh climb up to the desk, Steve will search the closet.
Someone's coming. Let's get to the hat rack.
Or maybe they'll head back to the vent and start looking for materials to make a new rope.
Well, will the two of you come quietly, or must I swat you?
But rather than call the lieutenant, he takes them to the closet.
Here's where the lieutenant gets a big surprise.
He's the one behind all of it. He calls the lieutenant and says, I can solve your problems, including your Bertha Fry problem.
What's this?
Take the lid off, Lieutenant. You'll find some little people.
Grayson, look out!
While they're fighting, Dan and Fitz are untying Mark. They really don't care who wins as long as they get out of there.
This is what I've wanted, Lieutenant. Now you know I'm the one who's been doing it all, ripping you apart the way you deserve. What you want?
Get that gun. All right. Sheriff?
What's going on?
What's going on is you are about to get the metaphorical whipping of your life. The doctor brings Barker around.
I got nothing to say. Nothing.
Of course not. Why should you? You, a man 25 years in SID, always overlooked for promotion. Men come in here years after you. Before you know it, they become your bosses. They treat you like a nothing.
That thing you saw over Bertha's head was her oh crap light coming on.
That's right. A nothing. An errand boy.
Especially Swan.
Yeah. How about this one? Lieutenant Grayson. Why, we started together. And then it was, Sergeant, do that. Sergeant, do this. That's an order, Sergeant.
It all came down to jealousy and the desire to be important.
So all you had to do was to get rid of Swan, and after that, Grayson. And with Miss Fry blasting the little people, they made great fall guys.
Yeah. I got the idea from her. Bertha Fry. She would have made me famous.
He got the little tube from a kid who found it and brought it in. Then he caught Mark and used him.
I used him to lure the others here, and except for that little one in the vent, it would have worked! Well, they got me, little man, but they got your pals, too. And Bertha Fry will see to it that you all die.
Bertha is realizing Mark wasn't the only one Barker used. She played right into his plan.
Little man, I want to thank you for warning me. Doc Jelko's the only witness we need in this case, but you just think about this. This is the first and last break you get from me.
But he knows he owes them this one. He may be a weenie, but Grayson is an honorable man.
Next time I come looking for you, expect no favors.
Fair enough. And if one of them just happens to mention that they saved your life and you owe them a debt you can never repay, well, these things happen. Barker is throwing a fit about Grayson letting them go. Grayson and the doctor both say, "What little people?"
Miss Fry, a confessed murderer claims that he got his idea from your broadcast.
Well, I don't see what
No,
that
I don't put any stock in such a wild statement either. The man's mentally unbalanced.
Unbalanced.
Obviously.
And that's what he'll tell everyone when Barker goes public with his claim, provided...
He also has hallucinations about seeing little people here. Now, Miss Fry, I'm going to ask you the question. Did you see any little people?
No, I didn't.
We can hope Miss Fry learned something about her propensity for sensationalism. She had Grayson on the ropes, and if Barker had succeeded, she would have made sure Grayson's reputation was mud, the military took over matters regarding the little people and wiped them out, and nobody would have known the truth. But the instant he saw an opening, Grayson struck and won. He may be a weenie, but just in case, I have some advice for all of us. Don't piss him off. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like what you see, please click the thumbs up. It really does help the channel. If you're not subscribed yet, the button looks something like this. So click it and join our little family. There's a bell there that may or may not actually work to give you notifications when we post something, but it can't hurt to click it just in case. Again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. And see how it defines F. To believe what I... Okay. All right, I'm changing the line on the fly. Be sure I know what I'm going to do. The head for SID. Why did he sit up when he can't... Bertha doesn't have an... But it's not what someone with an actual set of gonads does. Okay. Okay, that is... without...